Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Overlooked News with me and Z. Overlooked something. You're on mute.
We're still getting, everything worked out.
How you doing?
Doing good. We're a little bit late again. We promised 3 p.m. again, but it's gonna come out every Sunday. Just look out for us on Sunday, and it'll be good. We're not gonna set a time yet until we know, but exactly. It'll be out on Sundays. Now, what's going on, Andrew?
Not too much. Enjoying. I know. So you were saying you're having a pretty bad day weather-wise over in South Carolina. It was really warm. It's been really warm out today.
We've been getting a lot of torrential rain down here, and it sucks, and it's really humid, and humidity is no fun. Nobody wants swamp ass. So
right. It's always funny when the saying goes, April showers bring May flowers, but I feel like the showers still stay in May. Like I feel like it's a dated term.
If anything, it almost gets more. It starts getting intense in May sometimes.
Right.
That's when the storms that scare me start happening.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We'll hope everybody's doing well out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a lot of different. We got 4 different topics that we're going to share about today. We're going to start with talking about Shireen Abu Akleh, who was, as many of you know, was murdered, a journalist for Al Jazeera. And there's, unfortunately, I know we covered that a few days ago during our panel show, but there have been some disturbing developments that have happened from there.
Most definitely. It was already disturbing. We have a journalist being assassinated, on the line in Jenin. And then the events that have unfolded in the past couple of days have been if not even more disturbing.
Yes. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Apple and how they're starting to jump on the union train. So that's pretty good. That's a good train to be a part of. I'd be on that train. And so that, and then we're talking about the baby formula. Z is going to lead us on the baby formula shortage. And the fourth one is, I'm blanking on it. What's the fourth one? Oh,
the fourth one is there was a huge, pretty huge deal happening in Southeastern Asia, in the country of Thailand. We have Thailand is decriminalizing marijuana, and giving 1 million plants out to citizens.
Yeah, so that's a topic I honestly look forward to learning more about, because that went under my radar. So that's kind of the point of this show: things that are going under your radar.
Well, actually, the video I'm going to be playing with that video, the video I'm going to be playing with that section actually is wild, because it talks about the fact about this huge cannabis movement that's happening worldwide. And, we usually more tuned because we do have actual movement in the United States right now. So we're just, usually focused on ours. But worldwide, I didn't realize how far this, besides I know Germany was doing what they were doing, but even further, like we're saying, further east, the East doesn't really have the best record with drug use. They look. I mean, and white supremacy was part of that, but we'll get into that. So we'll get into our first story about the funeral.
Yes. So let's just. Before we get there, let's just make sure everybody's caught up on the context, okay? So a few days ago, Shireen Abu Akleh, Akleh, I believe. She's been a journalist since 1997, right? So veteran journalist, is outside in the West Bank, wearing a press shirt, and there are pictures of her wearing very clear that says press. She is not armed. There is no reason to think that she is part of any army, right? Any Palestinian army, right? And so she gets shot. And one of the things that's interesting about this is she actually was a U.S. citizen. I read that. So, and so the Prime Minister of Israel initially tried to say that the cause of death, she blamed it on Palestinians firing indiscriminately.
I want to point out and piggyback on you on that note. There was a huge disinformation campaign that came out as soon as she was murdered, worldwide. We saw it with our news. We saw it. They were trying to obfuscate the situation where they made it seem like it was just a random shooting from Palestinians from her side, and they made it seem like it was the opposition to Israel. But then you see but then if you go online, you see all the actual accounts because they actually had video of it actually happening. So it was the disinformation campaign that was sent out because of her that happening was one of the wildest things I've seen in a while.
And I believe they actually found, according to many of the journalists that were there that witnessed it, there were no Palestinians to even be seen.
And they're being held down. They said they just said that a lot of them were being held down, and they were just saying that they were acting like there was no way it could have been Israeli forces. Yeah, there's no the IDF was just not there at all.
Yeah. So I think when it comes to propaganda, we're seeing that it's ranging from complete denialism of it being in terms of it's Palestinians that shot her, if that's what they're claiming, to them framing the articles as, she just got hit by a bullet. Right?
Exactly.
They don't know where it came from.
It's just magic bullet.
The bullet came from the sky, fell down.
The magic bullet is just circling around Earth, and then it just hits random people and disappears again.
Right. So that's what kind of we're going against. And honestly, I don't know about you, Z. I've been a little pleasantly, and I'm going to say this with very cautious optimism. I've been a little pleasantly surprised that this story has been picking up more so than I thought it would. I think the whole funeral scene that we're going to show did not do Israeli propaganda justice in that sense.
It's. I mean, the only people you're going to be at that point when people are still defending you, those are the people who you don't want. Those are literally the other side. That is the other side. Because usually most rational people are going to be like, "What the fuck?"
Right. Exactly. And so, one of the Israel military spokespeople said that she was armed with cameras. That's what the producer who was shot in the back, I believe, saw. So, but I think, the video we're going to show you, it is a little disturbing. So just, keep that in mind, trigger warning, but here I'm gonna add it to the stream, and let's watch this. But first, let's get through the ad.
New device can remove up to 10 times more earwax than a traditional cotton swab.
So I think it's also important. Sorry, let me get that out of here. I think it's also important that this was the 19th journalist that have been shot, covering occupied Palestinian territory since 1992. Right.
Yeah, and I want to actually note another. There were 3 journalists in the span of 3 days last week in Mexico shot. This is a worldwide epidemic. Anytime we're seeing journalists like this happen to journalists, there's a far right element to it because silencing journalism is like fascism 101. And I wanted to point out the fact that how resilient the Palestinian people are. Like they're just still holding the casket, getting in there, and as soon as it gets in the church, in the mosque, they just start they still keep celebrating. And like we all can learn from. I think we all can learn from that. Like that shit is fucking boss as hell.
Yeah, I mean the sad thing is, I'm sure so many of those people are used to that, right?
Exactly.
Like, it's just another day where it's like, okay, great. Like the Israeli police and army, they're acting like fascists to us, right? Like, like, all right, we keep going. We're in the church now. Let's start.
And we need to remind everybody that's what our tax dollars are supporting right now. Like our money, every time we buy something or every time we work, and our money gets sent over there to support that shit, that grotesque display of state violence. Like there wasn't even what was the need for that? Just to show you have the upper hand, you have the guns,
right?
So
yeah. I mean, because when you look at the video, I mean, there was not even one person I saw that even shoved that like the army officer anything, right? It was literally they just lunged at them. Out of nowhere.
They didn't do anything, and they just hate the sight of them, and that's unfortunately settler state.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's one thing that's been, and I know today we're not going to cover the shooting in Buffalo that happened 2 days, like was that yesterday? That was yesterday, right? Yesterday morning.
Yes.
And then actually about a couple hours ago, there was another attempted gunman in the Bethel Baptist Church in Buffalo, where the governor and the attorney general were speaking. And we're just seeing a rise of these settler states are starting to try to flex their muscles because they're starting to people are starting to actually pick up what's going on. They're strengthening their forces.
For sure. And so, yeah, hopefully, I mean, it's just one of these things where hopefully more and more people wake up to the fact that this is a reality that's happening over there.
I did see, I saw this Twitter page called I could share, but I'll just direct everyone to. It's called Israel Posting L's, and it's just a bunch of people who just post them. It shows you the extent to the anti-Semitism not the anti-Semitism, the extent of the Israel people in Israel who are just blatantly anti-Palestinian and just think they're as subhuman and monsters, and in a lot of those cases it makes them look like assholes. Like it makes them look like more of assholes, but it's disgusting.
Absolutely. Yeah. So another thing I wanted to quickly show that is relevant to this is there's a video of in Hebron, which is in the West Bank, and it is where Palestinians are. There's this video of them bragging that they have a new acquisition here, and they're planting the Israeli flag. So this is just another thing worth showing. Give me 1 second. And we are going into the new home purchased by Jews in Hebron. Let's go in and check it out. It's a little bit dangerous, easy to fall here. Okay, that's the dangerous little floor. Okay. There's definitely some excitement.
So people really need to be aware that this is stolen land.
We're cleaning out this old ass house. Very good. And up we go. Okay. Okay. And up we go through the building. Okay.
Yeah. So just another video that just shows like complete disregard. You know, this is not supposed to be where you're making acquisitions, right? This is their area, their territory. And so I think it just really intersects with what we just saw with the funeral, because it is just a complete disrespect for their life and their lives. And so, yeah, Z, anything else you wanted to say about that before we move on to Apple?
Yeah. This is another example of you can't disconnect this from what's going on here as well. Like the constant police brutality and the militarism, it's the same. And you see it. It might be happening, and like it just people are doing it. A lot more people are accepting. Looks like of just like going in and being complete douchebags in some situations than are here. But it's essentially no different. Like we just do it in a different way, and I think people should just be aware of where our tax dollars are going, and we need to and what certain movements, like when in Congress, when they were trying to get things like BDS, the BDS movement started. Anyone who supported it would be lambasted as an anti-Semite, because you're not an anti-Semite for supporting Palestinian life. Like all life is precious, and how much of in especially in the state of Israel, after all the things that the Jewish people have gone through, that's just hypocrisy. Just to turn around and do it to a whole nother group of people.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
And it doesn't make you an anti-Semite to call that out. So
no, it's not. I mean, you're calling out just a group of people disregarding another group of people's life.
Exactly.
And
like, how can you just go to someone's? How can you just know people are living somewhere? You just go in and start taking their shit out and stuff like that, and just whatever. And this is ours now. Like, what the like? That's wild. Like, that kind of like thinking. Hell no.
Yeah, no, for sure. So now we're going to switch to a little bit of hopefulness, and we talk about Apple. Yeah. So Z, this is one of those things where, at least for me, I kind of had an idea that Apple was unionizing, but I didn't realize that it had spread to 3 stores and how much they really are considering it. And I think one of the things that makes this interesting is that all 3 of the sites, so there's a site in New York City, there's a site in Atlanta, and there's a site in Maryland. And they all are at different stages of unionization. And they all are actually, so the union that they would be a part of, if assuming they win, are each going to would be different. So New York City is working with Workers United. So Starbucks United, right? They are a branch part of Workers United. Maryland would be working with either Apple Corp or Coalition of Organizational Retail Employees. And Atlanta would be working with the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, right? Okay. And so I think it's just interesting for anyone here who, is ever thought about unionizing. I think it's always just good to highlight the different ways that they're going about unionizing, right? You could be like Amazon, where you could literally create your own union.
Exactly.
Right? or you could be like Starbucks, where you're using an already established union. And if you're actually trying to unionize a big corporation, you could, each local store could try a different union depending on, I don't know, how much they vibe with the union, how much the union knows about the community. I don't know, but yeah.
Personally, if I was part of a unionization effort, I would be like just studying all of them, and then I would I would try to do the Amazon thing and make a completely new union, just so we could have complete autonomy of that union, and we wouldn't have to answer. We wouldn't have to.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And then because the reason it works so well with Amazon too is because Amazon is the company that it is. So that
they're
also
uniquely evil.
Yeah, exactly. So everyone already knew that. So it was like everyone was looking, and especially since the failure of the actual trying to vote it in. I mean, it was a perfect example of working outside of a system. He got fired, so he was able to like work outside of it, but also rally the people inside of it, and then through that they were able to come to a unionization.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk about the Atlanta and New York City stores.
Okay.
And then we're going to talk about Maryland as well, because Maryland's actually just started unionizing a little later.
It's wild that Atlanta, I didn't expect Atlanta to have to be out there. They're trying to do that in Atlanta too as well. That's awesome. That's 3 hours from me.
There you go. Yeah. Go to a rally with them.
Yeah.
So employees in Atlanta will vote to potentially form the first unionized Apple retail location starting on June 2nd, according to a filing reviewed by CNBC. If the organizers succeed, the store would become the first unionized Apple retail outlet in the U.S. The Cumberland Mall Apple Store location in Atlanta filed for a union drive in April. In order to be certified, more than 50% of the store's around 100 eligible employees will need to vote to be represented by the Communications Workers of America. Organizers previously told CSNBC more than 70% of the store's employees signed cards expressed interest in unionizing. Now, I believe 30% is the minimum you need in order to have an election. So I would say they very much so exceeded those expectations right there.
Oh, yeah.
The election will take place in person and will run from Thursday, June 2nd through Saturday, June 4th. Workers can't mail in ballots. That's interesting. The election date represents an important step in the effort to unionize the Georgia location. The stipulated agreement between the NLRB and Apple means that there won't need to be a hearing before the election is scheduled and moves the process along faster, a CWA representative said. Organizers at the Cumberland store say their demands include cost of living adjustments and real-life wages for employees, as well as increased access to career development and more diverse management. A separate store in New York City is currently collecting signatures as the first step in the process to be represented by Workers United. Employers at the Townsend Mall, located in Maryland, which we're going to show a video of that in a little bit, are also holding a union drive, according to the Washington Post. If they were to succeed, they will be represented by the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, right?
Cool.
Yeah, exactly. I think another thing to be aware of is that this little article doesn't go into exactly what they actually want in terms of wages. But when I was reading one of the other sources, and I forget where it's from.
Sorry, that was my phone.
Okay, cool. I was like, what is that? Is that the union bell? No. So I think they're making an average starting salary of $20 an hour, right? And so but the cost of living in Atlanta, or the living standard in order to afford, I believe, I think it might be a 2-bedroom apartment, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom apartment is like $31. So they're trying to push it up to being a base of $28. So that, I think, is just one interesting thing, because it's like these people are well aware of the statistics, right? They've seen a lot, at this point, they've seen a lot of Starbucks workers unionizing, right? And they are well aware, like $15 an hour is not going to cut it, right? You're on mute.
Yeah, you're seeing this with these new unions, especially in this case, $28, and you saw like the ALU was trying to go for 30, because you can't, because even where I am right now, like in South Carolina, you can't, like $17 you need at least $17 as a single person an hour to afford just the apartment. That's not even, they're not even counting the food.
Right.
Usually when they're talking about that, they're talking about like just the thing. They're not talking about the utilities. They're not talking about the extra. They're just counting the home. Right. So you need more than that, actually. So, and especially adjusting to inflation right now, when, you know, I'm sure if they were trying to just rally for $15, they would, you know, 7 of those dollars is going to gas and the other 7 is going to go to you. So it wouldn't matter. So,
yeah. And you will be seeing in a little bit, like there definitely are a lot of challenges. It's not the best conditions for these Apple workers, but, you know, I think not compared to other places like Amazon, it's not as bad, right? So I think it's great is that because of all the people unionizing around them, people are kind of looking around and being like, you know what, I get this is better than other places, but it could still be better.
It's like, right? I do still deserve more, even though exactly I could become like I'm a pizza party's not going to cut it. Like I need like fucking actual material. When I go home, I want to be able to, like, you know, make pizzas or order more than like, or buy more than just like a shit pizza or something like that. I want to be able to treat myself. So you can pay me and I want my family to be able to live good.
Yeah. So as someone real quick, just wrote one question for you, as somebody who is close to Atlanta, you've been to Atlanta a good amount of times, right?
Yeah.
Are you surprised that this is like the first location for Apple that is wanting to unionize, or is this something that just makes sense to you?
Well, for Atlanta itself, no. Being like it's already kind of like a little bit more like progressive chocolate city in that sense. So it's like I can see them being like Atlanta, and Georgia itself has a history of, even though it has a history of fucking super racist ass people, and it also has a history of people pushing back and wanting to challenge the status quo. Which is one of the things that I think that a lot of people, that gets lost in the narrative of the South, is the fact that there's a lot of racism, but all that oppression breeds a lot of resistance. And there's a lot of resistance that happens in these states because of the conditions that we live in. So on one hand, I'm like, whoa, the South, but on the other hand, I'm like, oh, it's nothing new, especially for places like Georgia.
Got it. Yeah. All right. So let's enjoy this little clip here from More Perfect Union.
We talk about this country is like a place where democracy thrives, but we work 80% of our lives in an environment where we have no democracy. We have no vote in the things that affect us.
Apple has all the power, influence and money to be able to make a significant change in what labor is. It's an opportunity. Like they didn't start it. They didn't begin this initiative themselves. We did. All they have to do is like follow up.
I have been with Apple Towson for 7 years, and at the end of May,
8 years and some change. So like 8.5 almost.
Over 10 years in, and it's like, whoa. I'm actually being honest with these feelings that have keep coming up over the years, that I'm giving way more than is fair, really. April of 2018, we had this Batterygate incident. It was a very big deal, and the effect on the store was traumatic.
The tech giant admitted that it slows down older models.
Critics claim Apple did it to sell newer phones.
And this is pre-COVID, so we're talking sardines packed inside a tiny container of a store, and it boiling over. This anxiety of really just being yelled at constantly because of something I can't have any control over.
It's stressful. Yeah. We are kind of the face of a giant company, especially over the course of the pandemic. People have become really reliant on their technology. And when they don't have, their thing that works, they get really emotional. And we tend to be the person who takes the brunt of that kind of frustration and anger and fear and it can be a lot.
You're acting as like a therapist to people. Like I've had people like cry on my shoulder. We've also had people threaten us like with violence multiple times. It's retail work, it's sales, yeah, it's technical, yeah, but it's also like there's just so much that you have to be able to be good at, to be able to know, to be able to anticipate.
We want to create an environment where the people who have a lot of really skilled labor are being compensated and being treated with that level of respect that they deserve.
How did you get involved in the union effort?
Billy, KG, and I had like just conversations, you know, about like what working looks like at other companies and then other countries as well.
The way that they teach you at Apple to like teach the job skills to one another is like how we did it with this information, right? We educated us first and then the right people in the right order.
Took it one person at a time and just talked to everybody at the store, and eventually we got enough people involved to make a difference.
Talking to like our coworkers about like what a union is, why do we need it? Like this is the way that we, you know, we can make things better.
We make so much money. Apple, $3 trillion company.
It does seem kind of like preposterous to me that that our CEO can make as much money in 1 year as he does, and you still have people like struggling to find an apartment.
Does he do a lot of work? I'm sure. Is it worth $98 million when you have people at your store who are barely scraping by, who can't pay rent? Hiring a law firm that works with a company that has historically been extremely aggressive towards unionization efforts is troubling. I would hope that they live up to the code of conduct that they set for their suppliers.
The supplier code of conduct is our damn website. It's this international agreement that we've signed on to, and have anybody that is like a vendor or a factory or whatever, if those workers decide to unionize or organize, Apple has, you know, a contract that says we can't get involved. Like you can't do anything to stop that. So it's like,
at the end of the day, like this isn't about being anti-Apple. Like we love our jobs, we love what we do. Really what we're asking them to do is to lead the forefront and be a leading example when it comes to workers' rights.
Apple has the resources to really take care of employees. Use what you have for good. Like you actually could do good. You could bring like dignity to this work.
If we want to be different, if we want to think differently, then maybe we should treat our labor differently. Be the shining example for what a great retail work environment can be. You look at the people at Amazon, the people at Starbucks, you know, you see yourself in them and you go, wow, that could be me.
Proof that we can do it. Why can't we do it too?
If you see a need for change, there is a way to do it. You might have to start it yourself.
There's, you know, a revolution coming, and it's going to be one retail store at a time.
Hell yeah.
That's awesome. The way they
I love how, you know, I think one of the things that really stood out to me was just almost how they brought all the representation there. They said, we see people at Starbucks, we see people at Amazon unionizing, and I think maybe that could be me, right?
I think that was one of the things we were talking about a couple months when we saw that Starbucks started to unionize, and the fact that that was going to cause a spark at a lot of places. And then once Amazon did it, that was going to cause a spark. Like a lot of people are just starting to be like, I want better at my job. And
right.
You, like he said, you spend 80% of your time at your job. You literally live at your job pretty much.
Yeah.
You treat it like shit. And you go home and you eat and you go to sleep.
Yeah. I think what was music to my ears, what they said was how they applied their skills of educating people on Apple products to educating each other on how to organize.
And you can see that because they were like, the way they were using your hands, all of them were using the same, like they literally all three were just chilling, studying, and they all like impressed on each other because they all were doing the same exact thing, which was beautiful. Like, that was really cool. Like that's a union I'm gonna be keeping my eye on all the unions, but I'm really gonna keep my eye on that Maryland store in particular.
yeah, no, because they really seem to have their shit down.
Yeah.
And I think too, this kind of goes to, to anybody watching who's just in a workplace, right? Talk to your employees. Like, it's okay if you're frustrated about things, just to talk. And here's the thing: tell each other how much you make, right? Be transparent. They always say, don't talk about money. No, talk about money so that you can all learn where the discrepancy is, and then you can advocate for yourself, right?
But one thing about that, and also you don't go it like, you have to know these people. You can't just be like sitting at your desk quiet.
Yes.
Like, you can't just be that person, because no one's going to respond to you. You have to get to know people, get to know where they're coming from, talk to them, get to know their needs. You all work in the same fucking place. If you all work in the same place, more than likely, 90%, I'm going to say about 80% of the people you're working with are having a shit time at work, and there's like 5% who are there because they already have cash and they're bored and they just want to work, and then the other 15% is the manager, and they're usually going to be an asshole about you wanting to unionize. So you need to just talk to your fellow workers. I'm guarantee you 80% of the, 70%, we saw that just now, 70% of people were like, oh, let me get a card.
Right. Yeah. And so always a good, I guess you could kind of say that if 70% of people agree to sign cards, that's almost like a poll.
Exactly.
In terms of like an election. Like,
also, another thing I noticed about them is the fact that Apple, that kind of fucking workplace should be paid as ITs. Literally, they're literally like dealing with information technology, but they're getting paid like the same fucking rate as like someone who which all pay should be raised exponentially, but they literally are doing they're doing like wages for like just regular retail work, like where you be just like hanging up like they said, there's more than just like putting an item back, or like they have to help people, they have to like talk people that, because as an IT and as someone who, like, when you tell them that you know computers, the whole family throws everybody's computer questions from the grandmas to the uncles and everything. They ask you, how I fix this. People are very emotional about their technology. So you are being like a therapist, then you have to like find what's wrong with the thing. It's not easy,
right?
And it's a skill, and all labor is skilled labor.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it really just shows there's a lot of skill that goes in even with what they do that, as people who don't do it don't think about, right? Because you go into the Apple store, if you have an Apple, and you see a little glimpse of what the reality is, but you don't think about how the fact it's like, hopefully you're not a difficult customer to them and disrespectful, but there are a lot of people who yell at them, who
it's
take
like
it out on them.
You might not be a dick, but you're like you might be a dick, but you might also be like that one unicorn that walks in the forest, and like everybody else is just being a fucking demon. Like there's days at work like that, like at any job, where you're just like, okay, today was fucking horrible, like, and you shouldn't be like at that point where you're like, today was fucking horrible, I want to quit, but this is the thing that's keeping me, like, this is my life, babe, and I'm in a circle, I need that paycheck. We shouldn't be living like that. And that's like most of the people in the country, no matter what they're, especially since everyone's almost put themselves in debt. That doesn't matter. Like, that's most of the country, regardless if you have a good job or not.
Mm-hmm. And of course, the people who are in power at Apple, the people who make the major decisions, aren't public facing, right?
$1 trillion company.
Yeah.
$1 trillion company. That's going to shareholders.
Yes, it is.
Fuck shareholders. They suck.
Yeah.
I was actually, I'll have to share a video. And it was actually talking about the way shareholders collect their money. I think I was watching on TikTok, and it was just the fact that how they just get a check in the mail every month,
sitting on their ass getting a check.
Literally nothing. Literally don't do any work. Just may have gotten a share from a dead grandpa or some shit, and then they just get a check, and they're just like, I earned this.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's that. So a little positive news. Now we're going to go back to being negative.
Okay. So as we know, right now, the U.S. is actually having a form of baby formula shortage. I personally am hit by this because I'm having a new baby girl on the way in August, and that is shit scary. And one of the main things that you get talking points like, "Oh, why don't you just breastfeed?" And especially here's a personal story. I want to tell people a little bit of a personal story here. Is that the fact that we tried that with our first child, and all the nurses will try to push it on women to breastfeed. They'll just be like, they're like strategic about that shit. They'll be like, you need to breastfeed. They'll like try to make you feel guilty and shit. They'll be like, you don't breastfeed, you're not a real woman. It's like shit like I don't think they say that, but they're implying it. And they're pretty much just trying to say that your womanhood is defined by your body and shit like that. And I feel like a lot of people are not educated enough on the fact that you have people jumping on like anti-vax, like look like anti-vaxxers about baby formula on like line, where they'll be like, it's just baby formula is just warfare on babies. Like just I've seen that. I saw that. Like just saying. And they don't understand the fact that a lot of women can't breastfeed because they can't they take all their nutrients out, or they just can't lactate, or there's so many issues. Like when it happened to Felice and she was trying to breastfeed and she felt so super bad. And I just wanted to give this example. She would fall asleep, like would just fall asleep anywhere, like because she was so tired and exhausted from breastfeeding. You can't do that. You can't live like that where you just like at the point. And we had to our whole family had to convince her that she was not a bad person because she didn't breastfeed. That's terrible. So I just wanted to preface that before we go into that. So before you think about telling somebody, not you, before you, the viewer, or any other asshole out there thinks they're going to tell a woman that they need to breastfeed, fucking go. I bet you need to go fucking do something that you need to go do. Shut the fuck up. So
I'll do my best, Z.
But yeah, what I want to do is I want to watch this video. And another thing is we have to remember that we're in the presence. We have this baby food shortage while Biden is refusing right now to enact the National Emergency Act, where he could just have a bunch of factories, government take over factories and pretty much just go in and start making as much baby food as we need. He's not going to do that. Instead, he's going to send $40 billion to Ukraine. Another $40 billion to Ukraine, while we have mothers literally starving here. And then when asked about this before she walked out the door for the last time, Jen Psaki just gives like the worst answer. It's like, oh yeah, what about you just ask your doctors about baby formula. Okay, we have a broken healthcare system, dumbass. How are we supposed to? No one can barely afford a doctor. So what doctor are you going to go to?
I wonder if that's on the libs of TikTok Saki bombs that they have on there. Like, oh, talk to your doctor. Oh, you showed that, journalist.
Yeah, it's infuriating. It's like, yeah, we don't have healthcare. So how the fuck are we supposed to go talk to our doctor that we don't have? We have healthcare for our kids and stuff like that, but just the American people, like the majority of people don't have healthcare right now.
The 20 million people.
Exactly, 20 million people. Like it just doesn't make any sense. Like it's almost like they're laughing in their faces. And I just wanted to play this video right here. Never mind. I wanted to see us, but this is on PBS. PBS can be a little bit libby at times, but I just want to play this video.
Major challenge for parents all around the country. Today, President Biden defended the administration's response, saying that his team responded as soon as it understood the problem, although it began months ago. When pressed on whether he could have acted more quickly, the president said, quote, "If we had been better mind readers, I guess we could have."
I think this is the second time he said that about something.
What this administration is doing and how parents are coping.
He literally is given the same response that he gave for when we asked about COVID masks and getting tests sent to our houses. He's like, well, if only I knew that happened, we would have been ready. This is the same exact response.
Judy, 40% of formula is out of stock in stores nationwide. That's a 20-fold increase since this time last year. Supply chain disruptions, inflation, and a recall by one of the biggest producers have worsened the shortage. Parents are struggling. Here's some of what they told us.
The baby formula shortage came to my attention a few months ago when there was a big recall of a lot of the formula products that we use for our now 7-month-old. And we switched to a formula that was really popular, very common, which made it very easy to find online, virtually any store that we went to. But today, with the shortage, it's actually become really competitive.
I do feel like the shortage has been heightened as we are over here in Puerto Rico. So not only do we have the shortages showing up on the shelves, but also the transit time for new formula to arrive on the island has been extended.
Having a hormonal disorder, I haven't been able to produce as much milk as he needs. And so I've been supplementing with formula. The formula shortage has greatly impacted our family and given us high anxiety because without it, we wouldn't be able to feed him properly.
So exactly, that's exactly what I was talking about. I wish we could see us. Give me a second. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that's exactly what I was talking about. The fact that not every woman can produce, or person having a baby, woman or person having a baby, are able to produce milk the way they're supposed to. So you can't just be like, all right, why don't you just go breastfeed? That's not always an option. You have anything to say about that before I go back?
No, I mean, I think you basically hit it. And then we don't over talk about how certain people who, like that one woman said, has a hormonal disorder, very limited in terms of how much milk you pop out. So it's extremely privileged to just be like, just breastfeed.
Yeah, I mean, what I wanted to say was another thing. What happened to all those people who were like, breastfeeding be gross? Why you breastfeeding in public? Why are you breastfeeding? What you doing? Those are the same exact people. They're just hypocrites, and they just hate women. They just hate women and any feminine type of energy coming from any type of person. They hate it. And it's just very infuriating when you have these same people being like, well, why don't you just breastfeed? It's like, motherfucker, you've been saying for the last, since the internet existed that breastfeeding is gross. You've been fighting against that. So now you're just going to tell them to breastfeed?
Yeah, absolutely.
My daughter was on the standard formula that you should be able to find very easily in stores, and we weren't able to. It was just completely empty shelves. So we ended up taking the financial hit and signing up for the subscription formula.
I'm sending out family and friends, especially those living in other states, telling them to keep an eye out for the particular brand that we use and the type that we use.
Right now, we're working on getting my friend from Canada to bring down the equivalent.
And if people don't think this is grounds for revolution,
I've been paying a lot more to get my formula than I normally would. So on top of the formula cost itself, I'm paying for.
If you can rally people around anything, it's
flat
their
rate shipping through the post office because they treat Puerto Rico like a state. Whereas if I have a formula being shipped by UPS or FedEx, they actually treat Puerto Rico as international shipping.
Hopefully for all of us, formula will be more abundant in places, especially rural areas where people.
International shipping is so expensive.
Yeah.
I had no idea that if they treated Puerto Rico as like that. Well, I knew they already treated Puerto Rico like shit, but not like to the point where like they use international shipping as like when it's just right off the coast.
People cannot, go to cities or access supplies via the internet. In the meantime, there are lots of mom groups online that you can join and contact, and people like me have been posting where we find certain formulas.
Sometimes it seems like when we're not getting support from the places where we should be getting it, moms are there to help each other. And that's really powerful. Moms really, I think, keep the world going. I think we could solve any problem. I think we should be in charge of the world for a few days, see how much we get done.
The White House announced 3 steps yesterday to address the shortage. It said it would urge states to expand the options for parents receiving federal WIC benefits to buy baby formula.
But there's no formula. What? I don't understand.
The president is also asking the Federal Trade Commission, or FTC, and state attorneys general to crack down on price gouging.
That's good.
And the FDA will take new measures to increase imports in the future. Joining me now is Brian Dittmeyer. He's the senior.
Literally, I'm sorry for pausing it like this, but the government, our capitalist government, will literally do anything but produce our own shit here. They will pay some company like a shit ton of money just because they have a contract with them outside of the fucking US to import this formula instead of making us produce the formula ourselves for cheap. It's like egregious. This is what happens when you deindustrialize.
Senior Director of Public Policy for the National WIC Association. WIC serves about half of all infants born in the United States. Brian, thank you so much for joining us. We just heard from parents who are really struggling to access and afford formula. What advice does the National WIC Association have for parents?
Well, we know this is an extraordinarily stressful time for parents, and we keep hearing stories of parents who have to go 5 or 6 stores before they find a can of formula. And so some of the advice that we have is around mitigation strategies. So, identifying where in your community there's supply, it could vary because this is a highly localized issue. And so it may be the store one day, a couple of weeks later, it may be the food bank. But I think an important piece to also be mindful of is, to avoid risky infant feeding practices that could lead to long-term health consequences for your infant. So stay away from formula recipes. Do not dilute your formula, and do not introduce cow's milk before year 1.
The White House has been under pressure to do more, especially since this recall that triggered the shortage happened 3 months ago already. Do you think the White House has done enough?
I think the White House has been leading a great interagency effort from day.
Okay. Anywho. Knew he was gonna go there. It's like this dude's about to kiss ass about like some shit when nothing's happening. It's like if they were so great, why didn't they start 3 months ago? Right. Like I don't understand. It's like fucking January. What is it? May? Like that was like February.
Yeah.
But we're all up Russia's ass.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I'm saying? Like, but I doubt Putin just went to war without fucking making sure that all the babies were fed in his country. So right. I'm just saying. So, but for our last story today, we're gonna move back onto something a little bit more positive than the shortage of baby formula. Thailand has decriminalized marijuana, and not only have they decriminalized marijuana, they're going to be supplying 1 million marijuana plants to citizens who want it. And one thing that is very interesting about this is the fact that they're moving towards legalization, but they're just decriminalizing it right now. And the way they're going to be making the loophole is it's going to be, you have to be using it medically. However, it's not going to matter. You can just be like, it's medical. That's the loophole. They're not going to like, you just say it's for medical use, but you can get under, but it's not a strict law. So they're going to be able to, people are still going to be able to smoke and do whatever. Pretty much. It's just they want to be a household crop. That's what it was said. So what I want to do is I want to watch this cool video from this news site that's very interesting. Actually, this is my first time using this, and it was very interesting for the weed thing. It actually has a lot of information that I did not know about the worldwide cannabis movement that is going on around the world. So I think very, very interesting. Okay. Come on. I need to stop sharing. Okay.
Well, here's something America is not running out of anytime soon. Cannabis. The United States is one of the world's biggest consumers of this drug. At least 18 American states have legalized it. Other countries and regions are slowly catching up, like Thailand. Next month, Thailand is going to decriminalize weed. And to celebrate this decision, the country's health ministry is giving away 1 million cannabis plants. 1 million. What for? To let Thai citizens cultivate it at home. What made Thailand legalize this drug? Why is it so contentious the world over? Which other countries have legalized it? And why do critics call it a menace? Here's a report.
Cannabis, marijuana, weed, dope, pot, whatever you call it,
That sweet
is
Chiba.
arguably the most contentious drug in the world. Some consider it magic, some call it a menace, some consume
I've never heard it as magic.
some take
Okay.
it for medical reasons.
I think
and
that's other
some
drugs, but
for
fine.
spiritual purposes. All three kinds now have something to rejoice about. Cannabis is slowly being destigmatized the world over. Multiple countries are looking to legalize its consumption. Thailand is the latest one. This is Anutin Chanvirakul, the health minister of Thailand, a known proponent of cannabis. He has
Hell
convinced
yeah.
the Thai government to let people get high.
Yeah.
Wait until you hear how. By giving away 1 million free cannabis plants for home cultivation. What is the idea? To make the Thai high industry blossom, attract foreign tourists to the country, and generate millions of dollars each year. There is only one restriction. The people growing cannabis at home will have to declare that it is for medical purposes, a loophole that can be easily navigated. Thailand's decision comes at a time when cannabis law reform is taking place globally. Germany is speeding up a process to decriminalize it. The London Drugs Commission is looking to make it legal. Malaysia, too, is mulling making weed consumption lawful. Overall, more than 40 countries and regions have either legalized or decriminalized it. Most of them are located in South America, with a few countries in Europe and some states in the United States of America. So what is slowly making cannabis okay now? It's mostly the changing public opinion around the world. Attitudes towards the use of cannabis are shifting thanks to the activism of cannabis proponents, also increasing social media discourse on its usage. In the US and Canada, images of sick children being denied life-changing medicines had a tremendous impact on public opinion, a concern that brought forward legalization for medical purposes. A similar softening of attitude has been seen in the UK. Cases of children being admitted to hospitals over denial of medical cannabis triggered some reforms. Now, here's the thing. Medicinal marijuana may have its benefits, but studies say it also runs certain risks. It can ruin your mental health if taken out of depression, cause fetal damage if taken during pregnancy, prove lethal if consumed before driving, and lower one's IQ if grown in polluted environments. It's important to weigh these pros and cons every time we debate the legalization of this drug.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app.
The last thing. It's important to take into effect that if it's in a pollutant, if it's growing in a polluted area, that's a way to debate whether or not it's legalized. No, that strengthens the argument to legalize it so that you can actually regulate the environment that it's being grown in. Whatever. I'm just like I understand there are, of course, like any other drug, there are some risks involved with overconsumption, but like, come on. That one. Whatever.
Yeah, I do agree. Yeah, if you smoke weed on a day that you're like feeling down, it ain't gonna help. Just gotta be honest. Most of the time, it does make you just more in your head and more dumpy about the situation. But any other time, I mean, I don't give a fuck. You know, I still do it. I'm depressed too, so I don't give a fuck. But I will say that I have, from experience, allegedly, I have seen.
I'm in Massachusetts, so yeah, my experience when I bought an. Yeah. Sorry, Z, to interrupt.
Hey, our medical marijuana bill just failed last week and terribly, and you couldn't even smoke weed in it. Like it's just like what. So, I think that we're gonna go with the model of trying to just get it legal. Like we're gonna go 50 times like Canada did with healthcare, and eventually we will get weed here. But until then, I'm just gonna be like waiting for other states around me so I can just go to them.
Yeah, take some vacations. Take some, take a little road trip. Take a little...
we'll come up to Massachusetts sometimes. But yeah, as y'all saw, that is wild. Like just watching the way like the government is just like, let's get weed out of the people. Like that is a wild thing. That's something that I think that's how I imagined it in my head when I was like 11 and before I smoked weed. And I was like, what if weed was legal and the government was cool with it? Like not all these companies like getting in on it, just like the government's just like, we're going to grow it, send it to you. So you get like this primo weed and it's good as hell. And
and then you could continue growing it yourself
if you want to. It's like the first plant they give to you is kind of like a gift or like a
But I mean, the thing is with here, in the United States, you have to like provide so much paperwork for like medical use for things, right? Like here, it's like medical, wink, wink, right? So,
but I think that's another reason why we're starting to see legalization here too, as well, is because that we finally started to have like data, like hard data, like with the legalization, like because we didn't have that post 2012. Like before 2012, we didn't have that. We didn't have any data of like how much money a place could make, how much the arrest rates have climbed back up, especially for blacks. But but it still reduced it a little bit. Like it didn't like completely, like it wasn't a complete failure. It reduced it, and it also, I don't know, a lot of people were cool with it, and a lot of people weren't. In these legal states, a lot of people have shown that potheads aren't just like crazy motherfuckers or stupid, or you can just fucking smoke a bowl or something, go to work. Most of the time, like we're among you anyways, like we're just high and we don't say anything. What is that? What's that meme? It's like with Captain America. It's like that's my secret, Cap. I was high the whole time. Like it's like so. I feel like that's something you would never see but I didn't know about London though. I didn't know London was looking into weed legalization. I didn't know that. I knew Germany was looking into that. Like I saw Germany was decriminalizing them when they had their new election, because they had because the Greens won their election like a huge chunk of their whatever they have.
Their government.
Their government. The Greens won a big chunk of their government. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, love to see it. It's a very innovative, unique policy, and hey, I mean that's awesome. Like,
be pushed by the health minister.
And I think what better way too, if you want to make sure that we don't, that basically big cannabis, big marijuana, whatever you want to call it, gets involved, just like empower people to just kind of
exactly. He's there like upsurfing like any type of like corporate, like you just go ahead and go ahead and give it to everybody.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, and they're still gonna make money off of it. Like regardless, it's just that they're going with the model of let's just give this to people first and let them do what they want to do with it, and we can also use it for tourism.
Yeah. So. Nice little story.
Exactly. We just want to leave everybody with a nice mellow, chill, story to relax on. But yeah, that's it for right now. I know there was a lot of news that has unfolded since between now and our last panel, and we weren't able to cover everything. We put everything together. So more than likely, we're going to definitely be talking about the shooting on the panel this Wednesday. So y'all be looking out for that. And we'll what do you have going on, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Tomorrow going to be on postmortem breakdown. Joyce show, and then Wednesday, panel, and then going from there.
Sounds good. We'll be back on Wednesday. I think I'm going to be on this week's panel, so hope everybody's out there has a good day and take it easy and stay safe out there. And I don't really have. I want to have a catchphrase for.
Don't let the bed bugs bite. I don't know. See you later.
I die inside. All right, everybody. Y'all have a good night.